Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from the beautiful Senior Botanical Garden in downtown Curtisville. We'll tell you more about them later on, and later on, as a matter of fact, is when the roundtable shows up, and we'll get into all sorts of controversial topics when they show up. But I hope you'll stay with us throughout the entire program, because we have a lot of great guests, important information coming your way, including some discussions about some services that go on year-long for kids, and it has to do with sports and academics and everything. We'll tell you about that. But where I want to start is with something we've never covered before on this show, carbon emissions, and we do it with somebody who has been on the show before, our good buddy, Jimmy Flythe, Director of Government and Community Relations for Duke Energy. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, good to see you.
Now, I'm no scientist, so you're going to have to help me through this, but now Duke Energy recently proposed something called I wrote this down, Carolina's Carbon Plan. Now, you proposed that to the State Utilities Commission. What is that all about?
So, Jim, last year, the state legislature in North Carolina passed a comprehensive energy policy bill. And part of that plan was to reduce carbon emissions, and it set some goals. Some of it Duke Energy already had. It set the state on a course to kind of reduce carbon emissions by 70% based on 2005, which was sort of the peak emission levels. We're already at about 40% of that goal, but to get to 70 is a big monumental task, and so it gives the Utilities Commission the authority to approve a plan that would help the state reach that goal. And it's got some caveats in there that, maybe a little bit extra time waiting on new technologies and some new things to be developed. But it was a plan. It had we included over 500 stakeholders, and more than 300 organizations were involved in that process.
You really looked at it before this thing was proposed. Why was it needed? I know it's a stupid question, but why was it needed?
Yeah, well, I think there's so much focus in the news today. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of folks really feel like we've got to reduce carbon emissions. Man-made carbon emissions are contributing to the climate change that we're seeing, more severe storms and just sea rise and those sorts of things. So the state legislature had the opportunity to hear from a lot of different organizations last year and decided to adopt this plan. And so, we're charged with making a proposal, and there'll be a lot of other input and a lot of hearings.
What is this? We've heard this phrase kicked around, net zero. What does net zero carbon emissions by 2050 mean for our environment?
So by 2050, the goal is to be net zero carbon emissions. And so, we feel like right now with the technologies we have available, we still need dispatchable energy like natural gas. This plan that we're proposing would get us out of coal by 2035.
Yeah, because this stuff ain't going to happen overnight.
It takes a lot of time. It really does. And so, like, one of the things, for example, Duke Energy just recently won an auction to have the opportunity to put in offshore wind off the coast of Bald Head Island in North Carolina. And there's a lot of work that goes into that, lots of permitting. It's a pretty long lead time to be able to have that offshore wind.
Yeah, you mentioned getting free of coal eventually. Now, there are some communities that really depend on that for their economy. So is Duke Energy thinking ahead to how they might help those communities sort of transition?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a whole separate stakeholder group that's looking at how we transition communities that have had the coal plants in there. And quite honestly, the infrastructure, the electric infrastructure, the transmission lines and the substations are already at those locations. So there's some opportunity to redevelop those sites into other energy sources. The Blues Creek Steam Station is the closest location here. It burns coal and natural gas. Just recently, we added a natural gas pipeline there. And so when the coal stops, we'll still be able to use natural gas at that plant as well.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned natural gas, because I was going to say, if we're talking about the year 2050 and there's going to be net zero carbon emissions, I like using natural gas. A lot of people say, I like using natural gas. That's not going to go away, is it?
Well, I think eventually, the hope is that we can get away from fossil fuels completely. But right now, the technology is doesn't completely exist. And one of the things, any new natural gas, and some of the natural gas plants that we have today are capable of burning hydrogen. Hydrogen doesn't produce any carbon when it burns. It's an intensive energy process, but there's a lot of studies and research going on about how we can transition to green hydrogen,
right.
Which is basically breaking down water into separate components.
When is all this going to be approved? We talk about the proposals and plans and things for the future. When is we going to start seeing things?
So, our goal was or requirement was to present this plan to the Utilities Commission by May 16th, which we did. And so there'll be lots of hearings that will go on throughout the year, but the Utilities Commission is supposed to approve a plan by the end of this year. actually. And our hope is there's that we've got 4 different tracks portfolio, sort of an all of the above approach to small modular nuclear reactors, pump storage, so the hydro,
Right.
energy efficiency. So there are a lot of components, but the thought would be there's a lot of common in all the different four portfolios. There's some common elements that we can hopefully get approval on and get started.
All right, for more information, you go to duke-energy.com/Carolina's Carbon Plan. That's up on screen. And also Jimmy's favorite website, I like it too, generatingprogress.com, with lots of good consumer information. Jimmy, thanks for explaining this to me, and keep us updated on that, will you?
Sure will. Thank you. It's a big initiative.
We'll be right back. Back now on Triad Today, and I always like it when we can spend a few minutes with the good folks from Say Yes Guilford. This does a great job of helping kids and getting them ready for college and all sorts of things. And with me right now is a visitor who's been here before, Amanda Roseman, Chief Impact Officer for Say Yes Guilford. Welcome to the program again.
Thanks for having me again.
Let's just remind everybody what the mission of Say Yes Guilford is all about.
Yeah, so we exist to help students to and through college.
Now, a lot of folks, they sort of take what you just said and say, well, yeah, I've heard about them. And Say Yes Guilford, they give out scholarships, that kind of thing. I want to go a little bit deeper because there's a lot of services that you guys provide to students of all ages that maybe people don't know about. Now, let's start with, and these could be, after school or, in school type things. Let's start with elementary school. And what the focus is there.
Yeah, so we really focus on classroom to career. So we start as early as elementary school, as you just mentioned, with tutoring focused on that academic support. We really beefed up our tutoring during the pandemic to help curb some of the learning loss that existed before COVID, but was definitely exacerbated by the
And then
pandemic.
got worse because they were at home and didn't really, and some
Absolutely.
kids didn't have access to internet, and there was just so many problems. I'm glad that you did that. Let's skip ahead to middle school. What kind of things can you do or are you doing for middle school students?
Our middle school services are all centered around career exploration, so helping students recognize their natural talents and aptitudes and then exposing them to careers that would fit that aptitude and talent so they can aspire to be that in the future.
And that's sort of a, not that I'm an expert in this, but it's sort of a critical time frame in middle school, isn't it? I mean, because they're sort of formulating ideas about what they might want to do, important to expose them to other things. I mean, that's a crucial time, isn't it?
Absolutely. Middle school is the most impactful time for career exploration, but also social and emotional development for students.
Yeah, and now let's go to high school for a minute. What kind of things are you doing for high school students specifically as you're getting them prepared?
High school was about that big push of what's next. So focusing on FAFSA preparation, free SAT and ACT prep classes, figuring out what's the best fit for colleges, for students, whether that's a 2-year university or a 4-year university. And we're going to be working on some new programming for students that's direct to career after high school.
Now, how does this work exactly if I'm a student in high school? I mean, do I contact you folks, or who am I talking to about, hey, can you help me sort of plan what a good college would be or whatever? Who helps the kids?
So we are in every high school in Guilford County, so you can work with either your guidance counselor or check out our website or follow us on social media, and we do all of our postings there about all of our support services.
And you can sort of help kids decide maybe, should they go to community college? Should they go to university? Should they plan for both? And I think it's just great that you're helping them out. Anything going on for this summer that you might want to mention?
Yeah, so we are very busy this summer already, working on expanding that tutoring access that we just talked about earlier for our elementary school students, working on some new innovative things for middle school, working on a mobile innovation lab where we can actually bring career exposure to the schools where students are, instead of vice versa, of having to take schools out of class and on a field trip and that sort of thing. So working on expanding that work.
Mobile innovation labs. What would go on in that? I mean, give me an example.
Yes, it's going to be centered around STEM and makerspace. So we're partnering with the Forge of Greensboro to create a mobile innovation lab for students that's going to be on a bus that has carts that roll out, and students can engage with different technologies, different STEM type work and curriculum that we'll be doing with students.
That's just great. Now, before I forget, is it too late to register for a scholarship?
Absolutely not. June 1st. Register on our website.
Okay, so if folks are watching this on Saturday or Sunday, you still have a little bit of time to get in there. Up on screen, sayyesguilford.org. And remember, folks, to put 2 Y's in there, sayyesguilford.org. Check that out and all the great services that they are providing. Amanda, thanks for everything.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, and once a year or so, we'd like to visit with our dentist, although I think you're supposed to visit twice a year, but he you know, he comes in whenever he wants to. Our good friend is with us now, Dr. Nick Capehart, founder and owner of Ardmore Dentistry in Winston-Salem. Thanks for coming to the garden, Doc.
Good to be here, as usual.
It seems like everything is going up in price and going up in cost except for our wages, you know, and people complain about, hey, I'm getting the same amount of money for work, but everything else is going up. And this goes to healthcare too. Now, how can we afford dental care?
That's a good question. So I guess the good thing, you go to Lowe's, Home Depot, man, they put digital markers out there so they can raise the price during the day, basically.
During that same day, yeah.
With dentistry, a lot of the, not dentistry, say medical field in general, the fees are kind of assessed generally once a year. And the same with kind of insurance reimbursements. And a lot of that's based, you know, they assess over the year how things have changed, and they change their numbers, whether they need to go up, rarely, but they could go down.
Right.
And so with the way inflation's been happening lately, I mean, over the past quarter, 6 months even, it's skyrocketed. Luckily, in the term medical field, just hasn't had time to adjust to that. And so, oddly enough, our fees really haven't changed that much. They will, and they will catch up. We're kind of at a weird situation where now's a good time to do something just because things haven't adjusted.
Yeah, I didn't think about that too. Now, does the cost of dental insurance go up each year, or you were referencing the fact that, you know, some of these industries haven't quite caught up to inflation and to the process that they're going through. But with dental insurance specifically, let's say I have dental insurance. Are they just going to randomly go up on my fee in the middle of a year, middle of coverage year, or do they have to wait until the next year usually?
So most of the time, everybody's different with their policies, but for the most part, you don't sign a contract, but you agree to a premium. And then when you renew, typically at the end of the year, you set up a new premium, generally, unfortunately, usually goes up, and you kind of agree to that for the next year. And so it will increase. It's going to catch up. Unfortunately, a lot of times the premiums are going to go up, and then they're going to have to assess the differences in how they're reimbursing. And then the following year, that will probably adjust.
Yeah.
So next year may be a situation where you end up paying more, but your benefits haven't adjusted necessarily.
Well, let me put you on the spot about this, and maybe this is an unfair question, but in general, not everybody's different, but in general, is getting dental insurance a good idea?
It depends. It depends because everybody's different, they do have different needs. And in general, if you're somebody who has minimal needs, just normal routine care, maintenance, probably not. But I will say in a lot of cases that we've noticed, again, insurance companies taking a lag time of catching up, we've noticed a lot of the Medicare supplements specifically over the last several years have gotten to the point that they're very good. And I think, and I recommend, you know, a lot of people, it's useful to them and it's beneficial to get that because the benefit outweighs the cost.
Right. I mean, would you say that, and here's another one, a little bit controversial, but I've heard, and maybe I've heard wrong, that some dentists don't accept all types of insurance. Is that right?
Well, it's a little more complicated than that. What you end up with is you end up with what they call networks, and you run in this a lot. And if you're familiar at all with the changes in healthcare, you have certain doctors that accept things and certain that don't. And basically what it is there's an agreement between that facility that they work in and whatever insurance company that the fees are going to. And so what you end up with people who are outside of those networks. Not necessarily that they don't accept them, but they don't follow the guidelines put out by that insurance company.
Gotcha.
And so most of the time you can go.
Well, you know, I hated to just throw all this cost and price stuff at you, but I wanted to understand more about it, and I appreciate you explaining it. Up on screen, wsdentist.com is the website for Ardmore Dentistry, wsdentist.com, or you can call 760-9840, 760-9840 for an appointment. And thanks for always educating us about these things. I look forward to your next visit.
Thanks for having me here, and it's always a great time.
All right. Thanks, Doc. We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, and there's an organization I really like. It's called the Power Play Foundation. I've been out to Prolific Park, and those of you who are football fans know all about Ricky Proehl, Super Bowl champion, and his wife Kelly put together just a great facility and a great program for kids. We're going to talk about that now with a very special guest. Natasha Hilburn, Executive Director of Ricky Proehl's Power Play Foundation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
What, just so people know, because they'll see your title put across the screen and POWERS in big, capital letters. What does POWER stand for?
Well, P is play, O is opportunity, work, excellence, and respect.
And because when Ricky and the staff and everybody's working with these kids after school and various things, they really teach them more than just sports, and I think that's important.
Absolutely.
What is the mission of the foundation?
They came across, basically coming back to Greensboro and the community, they really saw a need for at-risk children in our area to have a safe environment to come to for after-school care, summer care, to be able to come to sports camps, and also mentoring. And that was the big thing. They wanted to be able to have, through donations, to have financial help for those families, for those children to have a safe environment.
It's a great cause and a great program. Now, to keep that cause and that program and that mission going, you have fundraisers, and you have a couple of big events coming up. I understand one of them's a dinner. Let's talk about the dinner first.
Absolutely. Blue Jeans and Bourbon is going to be held at Prolific Park. We have a huge turf field, 70 yards of turf, where we have a big party. It is a dinner. We have live entertainment. We have the band, Bandemic will be playing again this year. We have axe throwing, live and silent auctions, and all of the
Axe throwing.
Axe throwing.
Now, is this before or after people drink the bourbon?
Well, it could kind of be, during.
Yeah, I don't want to be in front of anybody throwing them
Absolutely.
back. No, but it's all safe.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's a ton of fun. We have a blast. We have a photo booth that, after the drinking keeps going, the photo booth gets more and more fun as the night progresses. But the main mission for that whole evening is to raise money for the foundation.
And as I said, it's a great cause. Now, you also have, as I understand, a golf event
Yes, sir.
Coming up. I want to hear all about that.
All right. The golf will be held the day after Blue Jeans and Bourbon on June 24th at the Grand Over Resort, 9 o'clock. So teams are still available you can sponsor a team. We come out there, we have a great time, box lunch, and it's just a big thank you from Ricky to put this on for everybody.
Now, can anybody play in the golf tournament? Do you have to be one of the, how competitive is it? Do you have to be like a pro guy or something, or could I just get out there and have fun? And
Anybody can get out there. My husband hasn't picked up a golf club in years, and he gets out there and has a big time.
Yeah,
So,
my
and
wife
all
picks up a
levels.
golf club occasionally, and she, but I'm not going to tell you why. Now, are you selling tickets to both events right now?
Absolutely. We're selling individual tickets, so you can be an individual to the dinner or purchase a table. And then you can also be an individual golfer or purchase or sponsor a team.
Now, let me put you on the spot. We didn't rehearse this or anything, but just tell me about how much would it cost to go to the dinner, and how much would it cost to play golf? And you have those numbers yet?
Absolutely. To reserve a table or sponsor a team, same price, $1,500 for either one.
Okay.
And then if you would like to buy an individual ticket for Blue Jeans and Bourbon, it's $100. And then to be an individual golfer, it's $300.
And of course, you get to meet young Ricky Prohl and say hello to him. And let's just remind everybody what Natasha was saying. Dinner Thursday, June 23rd at Prolific Park. Golf on Friday, June 24th at Grandover. For more information, let me put this up on screen. prolificpark.com. Let me say it again, prolificpark.com. Find out all sorts of information about that. And these fundraisers are really, really vital, and people are going to have fun, but it's important to have these, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the only way we can give back to the kids in the community.
Absolutely. You're right. Thanks for all you do, Natasha.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay. We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable. A quick shout out, though, to the good folks here at Senior Botanical Garden. Check out the website, check out the garden, hold your events here. It's a great place. Before we get to the panel, one serious note, and I promise not to preach, but it occurred to me I need to say something about this Texas school massacre. For 20 years now, I've been writing in my column and saying on this show that we need to have armed officers and metal detecting wands at every entrance of every school. And every time I say that, a local, state, or federal official, politician says, Jim, you're naive. We can't afford that. And then they send $4 billion over to Ukraine because they said we might want to stop the carnage over there. Well, there's carnage here too, and it's called children. And that's all I'm going to say. All right, now to some folks that are going to lift the mood here a little bit. The great panel on my right, but always a political left, Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster. And speaking of great broadcaster, I'm a big fan of this lady. First-time visitor to the roundtable. She was a fixture on Channel 2, WFMY TV, as an anchor person, now Chief Director of Communications for Say Yes Guilford, Rosemary Plyman. Welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Keith Granberry, founder of Helping Hands Consultants, and let's get to it. A group in Raleigh is pushing to have schools closed on October 24th in order to honor the Hindu holiday of Diwali, which is a 5-day celebration, but they want the schools closed on October 24th. Would you like to see all North Carolina schools closed for a Hindu holiday, the same as we do for Christmas and Easter? Ogie.
Well, it's done reasonable, Jim. There's about 10,000 denominations of religions, and you could get off every day if you wanted to.
Rosemary.
I do think there should be some allowances for families to be able to miss holidays that align with their religious beliefs. Maybe those are rolling holidays, but I do think that the schools should allow for that.
Good point. Keith.
I think that there should be a holiday. I think that, Christmas and Easter, we get off on that, but, there's a variety of other religions and Hindu, so I don't see why they wouldn't do that.
All right, Microsoft has added a feature that will correct your words if the program feels your language may offend someone. You ought to read the emails Ogie sends me. Are you guys okay with this? Does it concern you? Would you use this kind of filtering thing from Microsoft? You might offend somebody. What do you think, Ogie?
No, I've edited a number of community publications, and that's almost offensive to me.
Ms. Plyman.
No. I mean, just reread your stuff, right? Be nice.
Exactly. Keith.
I actually want to offend some people.
Yeah. And you know what? You actually do. You actually do. Lately, a lot of people have staged protests at the homes of Supreme Court justices because they might vote, or how they might vote on Roe v. Wade. We're not going to get into the abortion issue, but what I want to ask is, are you guys generally okay with people protesting at the homes of public figures that they disagree with? Ogie.
Actually, I have been in a protest at a home of a public figure, and if it's peaceful and orderly and no threat of any violence whatsoever, I'm okay with it.
Isn't that kind of intrusive, though, somebody's home? What do you think, Rosemary?
I don't think so. I think that is part of our process. And again, as long as it's peaceful and done in the right way, it's free speech.
Keith?
I don't think you should be going to somebody's home to protest. I think there's a variety of other ways that you can protest, but going to someone's home with their family there, I think that might be a little intrusive.
All right, CNN reports that one of the reasons for the shortage of baby formula is that some women have been hoarding the items for future use while other women just need it right now. Should hoarding baby formula be a crime? Ogie, seriously.
Not a crime, but we're a nation of hoarders, Jim. Let's face, during the early days of the pandemic, you couldn't get toilet paper, you couldn't get hand sanitizer. We're hoarders.
What do you think about the hoarding?
I think it's impossible to judge if somebody's hoarding or if it's something they might need. I do think you could make it a crime to resell it at higher prices. That would be where I would take issue.
All right, Keith.
I don't think it should be a crime.
All right, the North Carolina House is proposing a new law that would require all pets to be restrained when traveling in a car. Now, officials say that unrestrained pets can interfere with the driver and cause accidents. Now, would you guys like to see this law go into effect or not, Ogie?
No, that's taking it too far, Jim. That's ridiculous.
You don't
I
think
agree.
so? You don't think so?
Nope, no for me.
Kids, but your kids, you put them in seat belts, right?
Right, for their safety.
For their
mostly,
safety.
Yes, and I agree that if you can do that with your dog or cat, then that's a good thing, but I do think it's an undue burden on pet owners.
Well, they're saying you could put them in a carrier or something like that, but that's not,
Not all of
nobody's,
them have that. Not everyone has that.
nobody has that. But a cat could jump on you and really cause an accident, right? I mean, this is a tough one. What do you think, Keith? You think we should have a law that pets should be
I
restrained?
don't know how you can restrain a pet in the car. I don't see. And then you have some pets that are very large, so you can't. It's just too much. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. Finally, the Orbital, how much time do we have? About a minute? What have we got, Diane?
Minute and a half.
Minute and a half? Well, I just wasted, 30 seconds of that asking Diane how much time
Had
we
a
have?
good answer planned,
Anyway,
too.
did you? All right. Well, finally, the Orbital Assembly Company says it will launch the world's first space hotel in 2025. They say this will promote space tourism and it'll be good for everybody. Now, we've talked about on the show before that this day could be coming. Looks like it's going to be coming sooner than we thought. Guys and gals, would you stay at a hotel in outer space? Ogie?
Not that soon. I may eventually. I think it will become a thing eventually, but that's
Not in 2
cutting it
years?
close. I'm not quite there yet.
They're going to have 400 luxury rooms.
Oh, sign me up.
You
Sign
would
me
go?
up. Yes, of course I would.
Would you take your family or
Yes.
just?
Yes, as long as you're paying, Jim.
I can't pay for Keith's the one. Now, Keith, would you stay at a hotel in outer space?
No, I would like to send some people to outer space, and I'll give them a whole week or so. Let them just go ahead and hang out up there.
Why is it always political with you? I know what he's thinking. Madison Cawthorn and some of those people. Well, anyway, and I want to thank, once again, Rosemary for joining us on the roundtable.
Thank you for having
And you
me.
come back in a couple of weeks to see us, I
Yes.
think. All right, well, that's all the time we have. Except for this. Sports Illustrated has made history. You know, each year they have this swimsuit edition where they have all these scantily clad, bikini clad women. Well, they made history last week by putting on the cover this 74-year-old woman, or as Joe Biden calls her, a hot young chick. You know, Joe's older, but Hoagie got that. All right, for all of us here on Triad Today, I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next week.